You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome back to Cards to the Moon. This is episode 201. My name is Clark from 5cardguys.com and 5cardguys on Instagram. Co-hosting with me as usual is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. All right, off the top today, I actually wanted to talk about this last episode, but then the whole Shohei interpreter bombshell news dropped, so we ended up talking about that if you missed it on our Friday episode. Today, though, I want to finally discuss the other big controversy in the hobby, and I'm referring to the Victor Wembanyama Black Prism 1 of 1 card, which recently got a PSA 10. And the whole controversy began when the owners of the card, they shouted out Kurt's Card Care for helping achieve that perfect grade, presumably by using their product to help clean the card. Now, the question many are asking is whether the card should have been considered altered because of the chemicals or whatever they use to wipe it clean, or is it fair game to use cleaning products or Kurt's Card Care to make sure the card is given the best chance to be graded a PSA 10, right? So what do you guys think of this whole thing?
Damn, do we want to go down this?
This could be a hobby headline segment. We might have a double hobby headline segment in this episode.
I'll say I'm in the camp of clean it. Like I'm submitting it for grading. I'm not gonna submit a dirty card or like a card that's not prepped. You know, of course, obviously there's concerns of like what's going on. I haven't done too much research on Kurt's Card Care, but like I've heard nothing but positive things. Very happy customers, you know, and I side with the hobby on that side. I know there's a lot of old school heads that kind of think the opposite, but on this one, I think I'm more on that side just because, you know, if I'm sending a card to PSA and I'm checking it and it's not like there's, I guess, like dirt on it or whatever, I would expect to 100% clean it. It would be stupid for me not to. So I don't know what other logic you could kind of justify it, because that's the whole point of grading. You're trying to get the best grade possible, and that's a big part of it, right? So like I side on that side more so just because, yeah, it's always been around, to be honest, right? Mm-hmm. And I think maybe it was offside that he gave a plug in on PSA's ground. You don't want necessarily that going public, but other than that, I think it's fair game.
Okay, yeah, fair.
Yeah,
Johnny,
I feel like this conversation is like the sports card hobbies not so, you know, like the biggest not so secret or whatever the saying is, because we all know, I mean, let's get real. We all know what the elephant in the room is. Like you can't restore a corner, you can't restore an edge, you can't bring back centering on a card that's off center. We all know what we're talking about here. It is the ability to polish the surface, right? That's been I think people try to keep it hush hush, but at this point, everybody knows exactly what's happening. And that's probably the biggest controversy, is the fact that everybody has the ability, especially on chromium product, to kind of manipulate the surface, to make it better. And truthfully, I know old heads and purists are all about the original condition of the card. And for those, I get it, right? Those folks probably don't even grade their cards. They love it. Like the card as is, completely fine. That is like an absolute purist. But for the other haters out there, let's be real. Like you act like a purist on this conversation. But when it's your card, you want Kurt's card care. You want those PSA 10s. You're going to do what you can to make it turn into a PSA 10, whatever it is, right? If I have to, like clean it off with a microfiber cloth a little bit more than usual, or whatever you want to do, put some substance on the thing. So I think for me, this is like a generally minor restorations is generally a pretty known and perfect practice when it comes to things like comic books and et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is a tipping point in the sports card hobby, whether we're truly going to accept this now or not, right? And Neo Cards and Comics I didn't get to watch the episode, but I saw that he had an episode where he calls out the grading companies, right? Either be black and white on this. Either you're for it or you're against it. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. It exists. Yeah. And are you for it? Are you going to address it or you're not, right? So I think I appreciate that, because I think we're at the crossroads now, whether we're going to accept this or we're not going to accept it. And for me, I think I'm okay with it. If I'm being honest, I like your sports card, when you rip open a pack and it happens to be dented or it happens to have, you're excited. You get Ohtani out of 5, or you get some crazy card and it's like poorly off-centered, or it's got a crazy scratch. That's just the most disappointing thing ever to see that, right? You're like, oh my gosh, like I was really excited about this, and now it's like probably a PSA 7. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm still kind of excited about it, but right. So even as a collector, like cards in theory coming out of a pack should be a 10 out of 10 mint condition. The whole concept of it not being 10 out of 10 is because you didn't handle it well. You flick the cards at a wall when you're a kid. You're playing with the cards. They became worse and worse in condition. That's the whole point. It's not a 10 straight out of a pack, right? So I think, I think minor restorations and things that help you bring back that 10 or perfect grade. I don't know. I'm for it, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't know if people are going to really hate this podcast because I'm siding with you guys as well, right? But at the end of the day, like, isn't this like really the graders' fault? You know what I mean? Like the whole, not graders, but like, what grading has become, right? Where the value of these modern cards are, a huge difference with these big boy cards, whether it's a PSA 10 or PSA 9. Right. And otherwise, who cares? You know what I mean? But because it's so lucrative, people are going to.
What do you expect?
Exactly. True. Right. So that's why I also agree with what you said, John. Like, until there are like rules that the hobby we just accept all of a sudden, then fine, so be it. Right. But right now it's no one wants to really talk about it, and it's just kind of generally accepted. But I do think we're at a crossroads where we're going to have to decide. And I was actually listening to we'll talk about Cage the Lawyer. He's been releasing a lot of interesting YouTube videos, actually very insightful. But one of his videos that he released was on this topic. And he kind of equated to the steroid era, like in baseball, like pretty much everyone was doing it, or a lot more people were doing it than you probably think otherwise. But if it wasn't a definitive rule, then at the time, was it wrong? And it's obviously it's a hot debate still. But he was talking about Barry Bonds, who was an all-star before he started allegedly using, right? With his 40-40 campaigns pre, and then he sees guys like Sosa and McGuire just hitting bombs, and what's he going to do? Just kind of stay on the sidelines and not do anything, right? So there's this kind of, I don't know if it's a perfect correlation, but I see where he's going with that kind of comparison, where there's no rule stated on these things, and people are just up in arms about like, oh, this is my opinion is the right one, and there are two sides to everything, and I think it's worth a discussion and a conversation to see what we think of it, right? And at the end of the day, like even with vintage cards, I guess you could make the argument, like, is trimming, like, we all accept trimming as a no-no, right? That's an altered card.
I would say that's altered, right? For sure.
But then back then, I'm sure the conversation's like, it's like, oh, but the manufacturer, like, is so off-centered. Is that my fault? Like, I just want to make it more centered looking, so I'm going to trim this card. It's kind of like, having that dialogue. But now we just accept, like, everyone for the most part is like, no, if it's trimmed, I don't want it because it's altered in a significant way. Maybe we have to have that kind of dialogue when it comes to surface issue of chromium cards, most, of modern cards, right? I think that's where we're at now. Or at the end of the day, it's still one of one. I don't know what the big deal is with this. It's still scarce. Like, this is a problem when the scarcity is in the subjectiveness of the grade, of the PSA 10 number grades out there. If it's a gold prism out of 10, who cares? We always say like, we want to slap more for the authenticity of the card. And who cares about the grade at the end of the day if it's already that scarce, like if it's numbered to 5 or numbered to 10 or superfractor, right? Maybe if you want to be more of a purist, maybe those are the cards you go after, the low serial numbered and not the low pop PSA 10 cards that, that are worth a lot right now. All right.
Dreaming of a better sleep? Tossing and turning is not your destiny. And Ollie is here to help. Ollie invites you to sink into sweet, sweet slumber to improve your mental and physical health and overall wellness. More than just melatonin, Ollie's ingredients help you unwind your mind for a delightfully dreamy drift off. Sleep is on the way at Ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
That's off the top, actually. It's not our hobby headline segment, but I'm sure we can go much deeper if we wanted to. But let's move on to the actual hobby headlines today. Okay, so Hyung and I talked about this last week when Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, got into the hobby game when he broke a box of 2018 National Treasures basketball with high-end collector Shine. Now, O'Leary has since posted on his Instagram how he thinks sports cards can be a legitimate alternative asset class. And I think in one of his posts, he suggests a 5% weighting of your portfolio. So he looks like he's pretty going into this hobby space for real. On the other side of things, I was just mentioning in the Off the Top segment, Cage the Lawyer, he came out with a couple of YouTube videos really questioning where we are as a hobby. And one of the videos was titled, Why I'm Selling My Cards. And he does make some good points, and we'll talk about them in this segment. And one of them is actually that even if the hobby grows 10x, which is what Michael Rubin has been announcing, right, and trying to do with Fanatics' involvement in the hobby, even if it grows 10x, Cage the Lawyer's point, or one of his points, is that don't expect more people coming into the hobby means your personal collection of cards will be worth more with the increased demand. Right? So then he says, rather the money that does come into the hobby, especially from new collectors, will likely go to breakers, because all of those new collectors are more likely to be chasing, the big hits and the bounties that we're hearing a lot about these days. So for you guys, where do you stand? What's the state of the hobby right now, in your opinion?
I don't think Cage is wrong. Mm-hmm. But I do believe that it's different perspectives that you're seeing it at. So when Kevin O'Leary comes in, he's looking at it as a sustainable marketplace, a future longevity in the marketplace. He's looking at a opportunistic standpoint, a perspective. Sure. Whereas I think Cage is looking at it from kind of like a microeconomics standpoint. I think it goes with crypto, stocks. You invest in anything really, and you don't know what you're investing in, and you expect returns. I think you're going to be disappointed. But I do believe I side with Kevin O'Leary on this, where I see it as an opportunity rather than of course there's going to be stupid investments within the hobby, right? I would stay far away from. But yeah, I think there are great opportunities as well. I think there are pieces that are great investment opportunities for the future. And I still think there are buying opportunities on, multiple players and different forms of cards and multiple players, right? And we look at the Mickey Mantles and stuff like that, and you have a history of kind of like a marketplace. And we said in the 90s that we were going to get rich off junk wax era. But at the time, Mickey Mantle, I remember, and Beckett was the 52 Tops was the most expensive card there. And everybody would say that card's going to be $1 million one day, you know. And sure enough, you know, we went through all the ups and downs of the hobby. But still, if somebody invested whatever they did, $5,000 back in the days in it, they would have done pretty well. And I see it the same way. You make the right investment today and you love sports. And it's a way of, you know, cheering on your favorite athletes, right? Like you have it in Vegas where you're betting on the team to win, and there's no really betting on a player. And this is kind of like that, I guess, way you could invest in sports, particularly a player that you're interested or you believe in his talent. So to me, I think it's a valid point in terms of where Kevin O'Leary is taking it from as opposed to Cage, because Cage is looking at it from, you know, a collector / hobbyist perspective. And yeah, he's absolutely right. Most of your collections, probably no one's going to buy them, right? And no, I don't think I expected that our collections were going to 10x. I think good buys will eventually 10x if they're good investments, like everything else, right? So I think it's just two different perspectives. I don't think both are wrong. I think it's where you see it from. Where in the hobby do you side more in terms of what you view the hobby as? And that's why even I always say I like to focus on the positivity of the hobby, because of course there's the negative aspects. We could pick them all out, but it's really not going to do any justice. So for me, I don't even bother with stuff like, well, what happens in this? Breakers are getting this. Of course, there's a lot of issues that arise. And, you know, as someone who looks at it from an opportunity standpoint, these are the problems that need to be addressed. And good business people come into the marketplace to fulfill these, you know, problems with logical solutions, right? And that's all Kevin O'Leary is looking at it from, because he comes from a, you know, totally different background, unbiased. He's a watch collector. So if I say, okay, if there's a marketplace that's kind of similar to high-end card collecting, it might be watches, right? There's one aspect of somebody that might spend $1,000 on a watch, a Gucci watch, right? It's not, Gucci is just a brand, but that thing's probably going to $100 if you try reselling it. But you buy AP in the right time for 60 grand, and you know, now it's worth 150, 200,000. Like, no one's going to say that's a stupid investment. Of course it was a great investment, right? And that's the way Kevin O'Leary sees it, because he's looking at the diamonds, the APs, the Rolexes, you know. He's not looking at the Gucci watches, you know, of what some hobbyists look at, like set collecting or whatever. Of course, there's no demand. It's a supply-demand thing, right? Rarity versus demand. And sports is the driving influence. So I think just based on that, like, I get where Kevin O'Leary is coming a lot more than Cage, but I'm not saying I like what Cage is doing. He puts out good content there. I think he's positive for the hobby in general. So it's not to say that he's right or wrong, but that's what I would kind of counter with. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Good points.
Yeah. You can certainly, they're not technically two sides. They are the two different sets of the spectrum, if we want to call it that. And, you know, like going back to O'Leary and Shine, I wouldn't put it past them that like they made those videos look as if, you know, Shine happened to be wherever he is, and he like ran into Kevin O'Leary, and he's like, "Hey, I'm breaking boxes. Might as well break with me here. Let me introduce you to sports cards." And then the next time they're all, you know, happen to be on the plane together, and they release another video, Instagram Live, and now, you know, Kevin O'Leary's talking about how he's convinced and all that stuff. I wouldn't put it past them that this is like, you know, smart of them to maybe do a little bit of marketing for something that they're getting into together, you know, like it's a good, you know, and it's not, I don't want this to come out thinking that I think they're shady or something like that. It's smart. You guys, they're in big business. You don't just release live videos for no reason. There's probably some legitimate purpose behind their videos. So That's one thing I wanted to mention. I don't feel like they're just fluke videos. I think they could have easily maybe invested in a sports car company together, and they want to boost some of the marketing for whatever they needed to do. I wouldn't put it past them. So there's that. But in terms of their opinions of where they think the hobby is and where it's going in terms of asset classes and all that stuff, O'Leary and Shine, for the spectrum that they play in, they're absolutely probably right. Like $50,000, $100,000, $1 million cards are in the same boat as collecting Rolexes and stuff like that, right? Because these are in the high end space. You can absolutely consider them asset classes. And then now you got Cage Lawyer, who's on the other spectrum, who probably speaks for the general public. And when he talks about selling my cards and stuff like that, in terms of general public and base cards and Prism Silver, he's probably right. There's a bit of fear of like junk wax 2.0 and all of that stuff sort of happening right now. So I don't disagree with a lot of the points that he mentions as well. It's just two completely different spectrums of quote unquote investors, right? So you got sort of the lower end, the main population speaking for what they think is going to happen to their ecosystem, and then you got the high end sports card space, which is completely in its own ecosystem as well. So
no, it's I agree that it's really two perspectives. So I'm glad you guys mentioned that already. But I think some other points that Cage brings up in his YouTube videos is that if you look at what Fanatics is doing, they're releasing a lot of product, right? So when he says they're going to 10x to hobby, he thinks this means 10x to production. The more cards they print, the more cars they can sell. And of course, they do it in a way that's almost gambling in terms of the bounties and the chase. But at the same time, gambling is kind of like entertainment for a lot of people too, right? And DraftKings and FanDuel, like that's brought a lot of people into that space, like sports gambling. And I think that's just one way of bringing people into the hobby. That might not be for everyone, but that might be one. I think that is one quick way to bring a lot of people into the hobby, because there's so much crossover. If you're into sports gambling, or if you're, into that kind of thing, then this is just a natural step almost to get into sports card collecting or investing, right? So I don't see anything wrong with that, to tell you the truth, right? Like, I think even if a small percentage of those people that just come in purely for the entertainment value of ripping packs of gambling, let's just call it what it is, maybe some of them really think that, this might be interesting to dive deeper into, and maybe they do become more of a sports card fan. Not everyone. I'm just saying a small percentage. And even if a small percentage does that, you're growing the hobby. Maybe not 10xing it within a year or two, but I think that's a legitimate strategy to get people into the hobby space. But, like you guys said too, I agree with Cage the Lawyer's points. Like, that's why, to tell you the truth, I liquidated 95% of my cards in the last two and a half years, because I'm like, the writing's kind of on the wall. The bubble's kind of burst a little bit.
And we've talked about that for the last 2 years. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. With the length of how much, we started this podcast, so like, is sports card still a thing? And, it just looks a lot different now. We talk about the good old days of 2021 when everything, you can profit off pretty much anything, right? So it's just kind of this evolution of the industry. And I think, as it evolves, some people are seeing the opportunity in coming into the hobby. That's the Kevin O'Leary types. That's, some of the high-end collectors that see an opportunity. And then for those that are in it, maybe it takes longer for them to adjust with what the hobby has become, right? And I think you're not going to lose all those core collectors too. I don't think they're all going to go away. I think we all love collecting still, right? But, we are not just 100% collectors. We're not 100% investors. That's why there's a mix. And then we just do things differently. Like, I've liquidated all my cards, but I've also bought a couple of Grail cards that I think are long-term holds, right? Because I think, it's not going to be maybe the 1952 Mickey Mantle, but it's definitely going to be worth more than, the slabs that I did have before, thinking, if Jordan Alvarez or if Luis Robert does really well this season, that's going to go up. No, I had to kind of adjust my collecting and investing plans accordingly to how the market is reacting now. So yeah, so I think that's kind of where we're at now. I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are also on, like, I kind of mentioned it right now, the whole idea that the hobby is becoming more of an entertainment, you know what I mean? In terms of like, Topps Hobby Rip Night is a case in point. And actually, Casey Lawyer mentions this. And he kind of does sound like a bit of a curmudgeon in this segment where he's like, oh, what's this Steve Aoki throwing cakes in people's faces?
Yeah.
When he did, was Hobby Rip Night somewhere. He doesn't get it, but I just, for me, I'm like, it's entertainment. It's bringing eyeballs to the hobby. For sure. And, so what do you guys think about like that as a strategy to bring people in?
It happens everywhere. So for me, it's a standardized practice. It's called marketing, and it's social media. And you could pick the good and bad of social media, but I think we're more past that, arguing whether or not marketing a certain way is that's what we're arguing. The bottom line is, I'm a certain type of collector / investor. I changed. We talked about this on our pod and how our strategy is going to change. And this is part of it, liquidating your slabs, putting it to more long-term, more sustainable kind of like investment pieces that will grow over time, because now we're going over like going more on the rarity side. I've been like that for the last year while Fanatics have been taken over, and it did not affect me one bit in terms of I was bothered by it. I was impacted it by any way, shape, or form. And like you're saying, it's like, it's not for everybody. It's not for me. That's not my style. That's not why I'm in the hobby. And it's okay, right? Some people, they don't have a collection, but I see them freaking entering breaks every day. That's their style. Who am I to say that's right or wrong, right? And that, I think that's part of the beauty of the hobby too, is like, do what you love to do at the end of the day. For me, it's sometimes scrolling on eBay looking for good deals on sleepers, and that chase becomes that kind of like reward, because when you find that and you found a too good like to be true deal, and you commit to it, you see it as, this was a great investment. And that's my style, for instance, right? And it's totally different than any others, and it does not impact me whatsoever. If anything, it brings more attention to how rare my collection is and what people are looking for. People now know what a Pop 1 is, whereas before, people wouldn't even know what a Pop 1. I have a few Pop 1 cards, and to me, it's like, more eyes to it, the better it's going to be off in terms of the future of the card itself. So yeah, I don't see anything that can affect me on that side that would change the way I would do things.
Yeah. I mean, Hyung's right. Like when you look at marketing in general, specific campaigns or targeted marketing, that's exactly what it is. It's targeted marketing. So the marketing of Topps now, Break Night, Steve Aoki's there, it's for a certain segment they're trying to capture a certain segment, whether it's an existing segment or new customers, new bloodline into the hobby. It's clearly the marketing is not for older guys that are in the hobby that just love collecting. It's not clearly the marketing is not for that, right? Like, it's not for those people, because those people are already in the hobby. They're set, like KJ Lawyer, he's going to sell his cards and whatever he's going to do. His strategy or what he wants to do with his collection is not going to change at all because of the Topps marketing. The Topps marketing is for people, right? So I think, we can, even us, we can make fun of a lot of Fanatics marketing, commercials. We can say it's lame, or whatever event that they held, we thought it was pretty stupid. We can give our critique, but ultimately for their business, they're going to come back and be like, yeah, that's great. You can critique me all you want, but this stuff wasn't for you guys. Like this was for
Right.
the 15-year-olds and, you know, and the 20-year-olds or whatever it was. Right. So I think it's fine.
Yeah. I don't think it's a secret on this podcast, at least, how we are big fans, generally speaking, of the marketing that Fanatics has done since they came into the hobby. You know, there's been hits and misses, but for the most part, it's been great. And even when I talked with Coach Ko last week, you know, he thinks Fanatics has done a phenomenal job with the marketing and just bringing people into the hobby. You can't argue that they haven't done that, right? So yeah, it's going to be.
Did you guys talk about the bubblegum cards?
Oh, we did.
Yeah,
we did it.
Talk about marketing, man. I thought that was great.
You like it, eh? the bubblegum slab?
I do. I do like it.
I think we're going to talk about that. Then all this controversy happened, so that was on the back burner. I got to look at it again. I'm not 100% sold on it.
I do know like what John is talking about in terms of like from a marketing standpoint. I don't think it's a bad idea. They didn't even market it. That's the beauty of it. Like it's kind of like what like, right. And then you know what I mean. So it becomes like a thing that attaches nostalgia of like bubblegumming cards with right. like something in the hobby. And to me, it's kind of like, yeah, maybe there's no direct marketing where it's just like A to B, but I think there is some cool crossover of what they're trying to do with that, right? So I don't mind those things at all. And they work. People talk about it, and it's nothing that was expected. It's not like they're marketing this like crazy. It's something that you stumble by, and this is part of the user experience that I think Fanatics is doing a really good job. They're up in the user experience without telling us that there are all these different things that are happening within the hobby, right? So,
yeah, I love it. Maybe, you know, for me to close things off to close this segment off, because there's so many talking points these days in terms of what's happening in the hobby. Like it's great for content creators, like our podcast. Like, you know, sometimes when I tell people that aren't in the hobby what we talk about on this podcast, they're like, "What? How long can you actually talk about sports cards?" And we're like, "We've been doing it for 3 years."
Yeah. There's a lot more than you think. It's not just talking about sports cards either.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's not even slowing down. It's actually picking up pace, right? So
we got more in the works. More in the works,
we're here to stay. All right. Great discussion. And we'll always monitor the state of the hobby because it's always interesting to see what new innovations are taking place. But I think it's fair to say we're all bullish on where the hobby's going. All right, let's go on to our next segment we call Over Under. Okay, this is a segment we've done before, and it's when I give you a dollar amount for a specific card, and you guys tell me what the last sold price was, if it was over that dollar amount that I just mentioned or under. All right, simple enough. Okay, this is going to be simple because the over-under number is the same for all 5 of these cards. Okay. All right, and that number is $4,000. Okay, so I'm going to list 5 cards. You tell me if it's over or under $4,000, the last sold amount. Let's start off with, I believe he's still the in hockey the goal scoring leader, Austin Matthews, our boy. His 2016-17 SP Authentic Future Watch Auto, PSA 10. Of course, we know that's numbered to $9.99. Over under $4,000.
I'm gonna say over.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm over too. I think I had it in my 1v1 not too long ago, and I'm pretty sure it was like at $6,000. So it's over for me.
All right, that's an easy one. Sold March 19th, so a couple of days before this recording, for $4,950.
Okay,
wow,
just under $5,000. So it's gone down since you last talked about it, John.
Maybe he was thinking Canadian.
Were you looking at Slap Shark's consignment?
It's possible.
All right, here we go. The other goal scoring record we're looking at, Alexander Ovechkin. He is 49 away now. He scored 2 against the Leafs the other day. His 2005 SP Authentic Future Watch, right? Number to $9.99. BGS 9, 10 auto, sold earlier today. For how much? You think it was over or under 4,000?
I'm going to say over. It has to be over. I think his Young Guns goes for like almost 4,000. I think under 4,000 is one of the more expensive Young Guns. So I think any SP Authentic Auto, especially, his years, there's no really great, like if you get a 9.5 on that, that's a really, really good grade and card on that card. So I'm going to say over 4.
I did say BGS 9.
Yeah, BGS 9, yeah.
Okay.
I think a 9.5 would be like ridiculously expensive, like in the 10K plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
You guys know I've been in kind of monitoring prices for the Crosby Future Watch, and I know that his lower grade, like we're talking BGS 8s or 8.5s, I think they kind of go in the four grand range. So if the Crosby is in that range, I can only assume a BGS 9 Ovechkin is higher than that. So we're going to go higher.
All right. The answer is under 3,650.
Ooh.
That's a good buy.
I almost pulled the trigger.
I would say that would be a good buy. Like you're talking Young Guns PSA 10 price right there.
Yeah,
I would 100% have that over the Young Guns. There's no question.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't even. Let's not go there. I don't even.
Yeah.
Go on the Young Guns. That's another segment.
That's a good buy.
All right.
Wow.
Okay, we talked about Shohei in Friday's episode. His 2018 Topps Chrome Auto Rookie BGS 9.5 10 Auto, the one that I had before I traded to DC. That card, okay? 2018 Topps Chrome Base Rookie Auto BGS 9.5. Sold yesterday. Over under 4,000.
Do you know if it was Min Gem or was there sub 10?
Ooh, good question.
That's a question? That might be my kicker.
Okay.
But PSA, I would say a PSA 9 would go for 3.5K. 3K, 3.5K.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I could be totally off, but that's what I would do. A PSA 9, a PSA 10 would be probably upwards.
Yeah.
The centering is 10, edges are 10, corners are 9.5, the surface is a 9.
Over.
Okay.
Wow. I used to own this. You guys know I used to own the Sapphire PSA 10, roughly around the same time.
You did well on that.
I did. I feel like those two cards mirrored each other in value. Now the Chrome Auto may have blossomed a lot more than Sapphire since, but because I don't think the Sapphire is over $4,000 right now, so I'm gonna say under. Because if it still holds true that they kind of mirror each other's prices, I'm gonna say under.
Okay, so John says under, Hyung says over. The correct answer is over at $4,750.
Wow.
Sold yesterday.
Holy.
Yeah. There you go. All right, let's go stick with baseball. His former teammate, Mike Trout, his 2011 Topps Update Diamond Anniversary. You know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. His rookie card, PSA 10. 4,000. Over, under.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to say under. I'm going to say between 35 and 4.
Okay. PSA 10 Diamond Anniversary.
I don't know if I dreamed this, but I feel like I did see the price recently, and something in the 3,000 kind of rings a bell. So I'm gonna go with Hyung. I'm gonna go under. All
right, you definitely dreamed it because it sold for 4,300.
Wow.
So it's over in that instance.
that was good.
All right, one more. Let's go to basketball. He's in the MVP discussion. Reppin' Canada. You know who I'm talking about? SGA, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. His 2018-19 Panini Prism rookie card. Blue Ice. Looks pretty sweet. Number to 99, of course. PSA 10. Over under 4,000.
Man, I'm going to say under just because he was so criminally low that even though it might seem like it's going up like crazy, I think it's still relatively low even now compared to like Luka prices and stuff. So I'm going to say lower.
Okay.
Yeah. I followed that card on my watch list for a little while. So I have a feeling that it is under, but I think I'm 0 for 4 in this segment. So it's time to go George Costanza and just go complete opposite of my instinct. So we're going to go over.
Well, you got to stick with your gut, man. It was under 3,800.
Oh, God.
That is money.
Bad showing for Johnny this time around. Oh, man. That's... You know what? We'll do another round of this later to redeem yourself, to give you a chance at redemption. So don't feel too bad. Yeah, it was tricky because I purposely chose these because it's like a little over or under 4,000. So there you go. Another segment of over under. All right, let's end off our show with our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. This is when all of us, we choose 2 cards and we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right, so Hyung, do you want to start things off for us?
Sure thing. I'm going to go baseball and someone who I believe is criminally low. He's the second among all active WAR leaders right now, and that's Mookie Betts. I think that he's going to potentially have 100 WAR when it's all said and done. And I think when he leaves baseball, I think we're going to realize how consistently good he was. And I think he gets no hobby love. But since you guys, or at least Clark loves, first Bowmans, and that's one of his rare autos from his rookie season. His first Bowman Chrome in 2014, a base auto. And this was a True Gem Plus. Okay, so this was one subgrade 10. True Gem 9.5, auto 10. Sold for... I want to say, I didn't have the price, but I would say about $11.50.
Okay.
I'm going to pair that up with his Topps Update Gold from the same year. So 24 Topps Update Gold out of 2014. A PSA 10 sold for $1,100. What would you pick? A Bowman First Chrome, base auto, True Gem Plus, or PSA 10 Topps Update Gold numbered to 2014?
Do you happen to know the pop count on the gold?
I will get that for you.
So the Topps Update Gold is obviously paper.
Paper, yeah.
Versus first Bowman Chrome. Yeah.
I'm going to say it's probably somewhere like in the 250 to...
It's probably not that many,
somewhere,
to be honest.
It is Pop 163.
That's the PSA 10?
PSA 10.
Topps Update Gold?
Yep.
I think, we spoke about this many times, but baseball hobby logic has shifted. Like Bowman First is huge. But I still love like MLB. I still love like the traditional MLB rookie cards. It's not auto. I get it. And there's a big emphasis also on auto. But I don't know. I like as much as the gold is boring and we hate on, the aesthetic of the paper gold. I think that's far back enough that the pop count is pretty juicy. And I don't know. I think from a collection PC standpoint, I prefer the gold.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my choice.
In our previous segment, we're talking about, like how we have to change the way we collect according to the market, and I'm beginning to think it applies here. Like, even with like base autograph cards, and even if they are first Bowman, they are base, that they're not numbered, and the BGS 9.5, so it creates this almost manufactured scarcity because of the grading of the base card, right? So I'm gonna go with like cards that are numbered, so there's actual scarcity, how much there are, And the Topps Update Gold, of course, number to the year it was released, 2014, I believe you said.
Yeah, 2014.
So, and it's a PSA 10. That's a bonus, right? So I'm actually going to go for the Topps Gold Update.
Wow. I would never have thought.
Yes, Clark.
Interesting.
Let's do it.
All right. That's interesting. I was actually going the other way, guys. And
the first Bowman?
With the first Bowman, yeah. Like I do like the gold. I think it's a great card. I think it's a great buy, even at this price, because I always compare it to my Trout cards and see how his Topps Update to his Bowman Chrome did. There's a lot of similarities, I think, with Trout having autos really rare in his rookie. Same with Mookie Betts. There's really no autograph cards other than his Topps Heritage as well. So you have his Real One autos or his Bowman Chrome autos. There's no Topps Chrome auto. I think that's also why the Topps Update and Topps Chrome is such a good card too for Mookie. He's one of those guys where he doesn't have a lot of rookie cards, so it's not a bad. I think there's not a lot of scarce Mookie, if that makes sense. So and the on card auto is massive for me. If you look at 2014 Mookie Betts auto, there's the real one autos and Bowman Chromes, and for that it's kind of like that Soto. Why I like Soto cards so much. I think Mookie falls into that equation as well. That's why I want to bring that up, because I see a lot of parallels with Trout, and I would probably go with the Bowman Chrome Trout over the Topps Update Gold Trout PSA 10. So I would probably do the same with Mookie Betts as well.
Okay. I was thinking that comparison too with Mike Trout, because I do have the first Bowman Chrome.
Yeah.
And it's a base. And I'm like, would I trade that in for Topps? The only difference with Mike Trout is like the Bowman Chrome of his card is more iconic than the one that Mookie.
But his 2011 update is pretty iconic itself too. Like his that image of Trout, but then it's in a gold.
That's true. Yeah,
right.
That's true.
Would you trade it in for the Diamond Anniversary?
That's 4K. They're around the same price, wouldn't they be?
I'm guessing kind of close.
Yeah, and I would say the Topps Update Gold Trout would be similar to a 9.5, maybe. 9.5 a Bowman Chrome Trout.
No, I'll stick with the Bowman Chrome Trout. I do agree that the Topps Update is pretty iconic, but the Bowman Chrome is iconic too.
Yeah,
so all things considered equal, I'll stick with the Bowman Chrome.
We had him thinking for a second.
Now I'm confused, but yeah, no. That's a good one. All right, John, you got one?
So I think everybody knows, as a baseball collector, 52 Topps Mantle is the holy grail. I saw, and we've seen it, the altered 52 Topps, especially the ones where, a kid cut out the image. We've seen a couple of those.
Wild.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I think I saw one that was on sale. I don't know if it was, and I don't know if it's sold already and how much it sold for, but I'm going to just guess in my mind what that might go for. Maybe I'm completely off. I feel like it would go for like $10,000 to $15,000. Am I off on that? But anyways, I'm going to put up that card, the super altered Mantle, where it's all cut up, versus a card that just sold. It's the 2018 Topps Chrome Shohei Ohtani rookie, Red Wave, BGS 9.5, Gem Mint Plus, the Red Wave. It just sold a couple of days ago for just under $12,000.
That's the non-auto.
Non-auto, the one with his leg up.
Okay, leg up. Okay, yeah.
Topps Chrome Red Wave out of 5.
BGS 9.5. I want to see this Mantle card.
I think there's
the
a
Mantle card you're talking about. Is, like, it's completely carved out, like around.
His like silhouette is cut out.
Yeah, I remember seeing it, and then I thought it was pretty cool, but
yeah, I think there's there are enough Grail hunters that so many people just don't even care. Like the fact that it's authentic.
Yeah, I'm trying to find an image, but I'll throw it up first. I think it's easy for me. I'm going Ohtani. Like, you had me at red. End of story. Out of 5, Ohtani numbered out of 5. That is insane.
Yeah,
like 12 grand. I long term, that might not be a bad play. And then I would definitely, just because I love the 52 tops mantle, I would want to get a proper one for that. But I do, like, it's close. Like, if let's just say I couldn't get any 52 mantle, yeah, like, that's, like, Clark's showing it right now. Like, that's, yeah, no, that's not, I want the real one. Give me the red wave Ohtani. Like, he didn't even, like, use a sharp razor to cut, like, even closer. Like,
I think my son submitted that one.
Jeez. Yeah, that's. I was thinking maybe it's like, okay, I could see this is like a nice art piece, and it's like, nah, it's not gonna cut it. I'd rather the red wave Ohtani, and then I would get a real 52 mantle, even if it was like authentic or like an altered or like, a PSA 1 at this point.
Oh man, you can't appreciate good art. This is pop art, man. It's like a collage of Mickey Mantle. But yeah, I can't believe this sold for. This is in a old BVG slab. So
did this one sell actually?
Yeah, March 5th. Yeah, this March for 7,200.
Oh, 7,000. That's lower than I thought.
But still, I'm sure a PSA might have been worth more. But yeah, that's it's easy for me to show a red wave. I can't even. This is ridiculous. I don't know how it sold for over 7,000. But I don't know. Okay, I don't even have anything to say.
You can't even justify it on the other side, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like I feel like you can justify it. Like 7,000. I was hoping it was more of a comparison, so we don't have to get money involved. I was hoping it was like more of a $10,000 sale. Hyung's right. If that was not in the old school BVG, and it was like a PSA 1 or PSA altered authentic, I think it probably could have sold 8,000, 9,000. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Assuming price is equal, so assuming the red wave or whatever this Ohtani card we want to pair it up against is a $7,000 card. Mm-hmm. You know what? I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think I'm gonna go Mantle, man. And I think a lot of it has to do with what we just talked about today, like off in the hobby segment, hobby news segment, like Cage the Lawyer, what he's talking about, and like more people entering the hobby doesn't necessarily equate, and I think as we go deeper now, people are going to continually be searching for rare cards. They're going to be breaking, chasing, and selling off and stuff like that. And Ohtani's in a weird space where everybody wants his cards, but his cards can, like, the ratio of what we knew, back 3 years ago, this red wave would have been the shiz. Like, it would have been, it was huge, right? Topps Chrome, red wave, huge. But so much has shifted since, like, the base Bowman auto or the Heritage Real One autos. Like, people have been kind of diverting what was previously known as the classic Grail Ohtani. And I think the market is kind of getting confused because there's just so much options on, if I have $10,000, if I have $5,000, if I have $15,000, what is the best Ohtani I can get? And there's just a wide range of opinions. Whereas the Mantle, I think as we continue to go forward, it's just going to be an artifact. It's going to be a piece of history. Everybody's going to want a piece of history. This is the reason why a cut-up Mantle still sells for thousands of dollars, because people still want it. They want a piece of history. And it's just going to be a continual, singular focused Grail. So I think I'm going to pick the Mantle. And personally in my collection, I think it would be cool. At the same time, I might be like, this is so ugly. I don't like looking at it every day.
So therefore, he's going with the Otani.
But yeah, I'm gonna say I think I'm gonna stick with the mantle and make the argument that I think there is a good argument for the mantle.
That's so crazy, dude. That is. To each their own. I think Johnny actually believes that Shawnee's got a gambling problem. That's why he's siding.
Yeah, he has some inside scoop. He's probably dumping. He's dumping Otani.
Tell us, man. Anyway, all right. We're joking off the air that Johnny and I weren't really prepared for the 1v1 because we were like scrambling.
We were scrambling.
As we can tell from Johnny's. but I was scrambling too. So this is my kind of like, I just found one right now. Okay, so we talked about the SGA Blue Ice number to 99 PSA 10. So for 3,800, just under 4,000. Would you want 4 of those? Okay, so about $17,000 invested in 4 PSA 10 SGA Blue Ice, or we're talking about the Blue Ice of Luka, same year, right? It sold last month for you know how much? PSA 10. Also numbered to 99, of course. 17,000.
Wow.
Okay, so just one of those or 4 SGAs.
Am I insane that I'm like leaning towards Luka? The logical me says the 4 SGAs, but it's kind of like real estate. I always say this with real estate. Like, good real estate's just good real estate. Like, the prime. And
right.
I feel like that's the Luka Blue Ice is one of those kind of grails, the staples, the most desired kind of like cards. So it's tough because the price I don't like, but as a prized possession that it's like, wow, you have one of the grails. This is a card that, you know, any collector, high-end collector would be like, this is a must-have, right? Especially if you're a Luka collector. And it's crazy that I'm saying this, but yeah, I think I'm going to go with the Luka still. I think even if I spend that money, I'm okay with it just staying in there because I just believe that's the type of hype Luka's going to bring in terms of his career. So, and Dallas is looking really good. Like, I think there's a lot of, you know, positives coming out of this. I think Luka's going to eventually win a championship. So, yeah, it's, I'm going to go in Luka Blue Ice, 17K insanity, but not, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Man, the 2018 Blue Ice is a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, a beautiful card. It's very similar to the, the baseball Sapphire from 2018, right?
Yeah.
Not 2018 Sapphire for baseball. I think it's on another level, but you get what I'm saying. And, you know, technically, they're both for SGA and for Luka. Some people say it's color match, although not the right shade of blue, but still it's still blue.
Yeah.
And I think I'm with Hyung. I think, you know, when you get into the like 5-figure stratosphere, because if you're going to invest in the SGAs, we all love SGA. We're Canadians, and you know, the bias is there. SGA still has to do more, as he's going to be the underrated superstar, and I don't know if he'll ever surpass like a Luka or a Giannis or these automatic, you know, no matter how good or bad or not, you know, championships they win or don't win. I feel like there's a select few people that are, maybe some people might say unfairly, just automatically in the top 3 conversation for like top 3, top 5 every year.
Yeah. And
Luka is one of those guys. And I think SGA, when you think of big game hunting, like you have to think, is his $4,000 card going to go to 8,000? Is it going to go to 10,000? Is it going to 11? You're getting into the stratosphere of like big game hunters, like people who spend big money on sports cards. And I don't know if big people like that, unless you're a basketball fan, like a real basketball fan, you're, you know, at $10,000, you're probably going to be looking at Luka. You're going to be looking at Jordan. You're going to be looking at Kobe. You're going to be looking at Messi. I'm not sure if SGA is in that conversation. So I think when you get into that kind of money, the liquidity portion of the SGA is probably a bit easier. You can sell some, you can keep some, yada, yada, yada. But I think the Luka at 16, 15,000, 17,000, that's a card that I think in the right environment could sell for 25, 30, you know, be an absolute big card. If you held on to it for 10, 15, 20 years, I think that is a really, really legitimate big card. So I'm also going to pick the Luka. And yeah, I'm also going to pick the Luka.
Okay. Oh man, maybe we're just all crazy because I'm gonna go with the Luka as well.
I knew it.
For 70K. Oh man, but I was just looking at historical trends. So in 2021 during the hobby hype, that Luka Blue Ice number to 99 PSA 10 sold for about $105,000.
Wow.
My gosh. Right, and now it's down to 16K. It's kind of the last 3 sales has been hovering around 16, 17K. So it looks like that's the bottom right now. But I could see it spiking up, especially if the Mavs make a deep playoff run and Luka's having a amazing season this year again.
Right.
And he is the face of one of the faces of the NBA, so he's got that going for him. And I agree with you, Shea is just undervalued in general. And I looked at his prices in 2021. It was $3,000. So it went from $3,000 to $3,800 in that same time span that Luka went from 105,000 down to 16,000, but still worth a lot more right now, right? So it's one of those things. So I'm just investing in the player, Luka over Shea. You know, I would love to have a Shea in my personal collection. I wouldn't expect it to be an investment piece, you know, but it would be a great PC card, but nothing more, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, that's another great episode of Cards to the Moon. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you guys, and we hope you'll tell others about this podcast if you enjoyed it. And we'll have a brand new one for you next week. Talk to you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.